Was sentenced to prison today. Juan Velasquez. He was convicted of manslaughter. A plea deal dropped what would have been a murder charge. Velasquez shot and killed Juan Tobar Abarca last August. Velasquez was arrested the next day.